Might cut my head off. Okay, some of you may welcome that. Right, the right realist approach. Okay, right realist approach to crime and deviance in the contemporary UK. 50 marks, OCR exam, G673, crime and deviance. So, in explaining the right realist approach, we need to say that they have two strands to their belief system or ideology. So, they've got the liberalism strand, and they've got the conservatism strand. So the liberalism strand says that people are selfish, but they're rational, so they're capable of making choices and decisions to help themselves. Okay, so they're critical of the dependency created by the welfare state, which also leads to a culture of dependency, which leads to valuelessness and crime. As a way of coping with poverty, instead of making the choice to work, people just rely on benefits. Conservatism, the view that people are selfish but irrational, so they're not capable of making the right choices, so they need to be strongly controlled by a strong state, like through punishment. So we've got too permissive a society. Society is too permissive, too much promiscuous sexuality, there's too much feckless fathers and mothers married to the state instead of doing their job as parents, teachers not doing their job and having enough control. New right studies, we've got Charles Murray talks about the generosity of the welfare state, which creates an underclass. There's valuelessness, crime and deviance, joblessness, dependency, and long-term unemployment, single parenthood, all of which leads to a loss of control over people. We've got Marsland, nanny state, which provides everything so there's no need to work. We could put Dennis in, says sons have no strong role model. That's a particular problem because the new right agree with functionists that there are natural differences between males and females and between young and old. Young males are therefore more naturally aggressive and impulsive. They lack self-control and therefore they turn to crime if they're not adequately restricted or controlled. Okay, so we've got the introduction and we've got some key studies. And then we've got the evaluation points that the class has created. So we've got feminists, such as Adler, argue that the right realists overplay how society is positive and ignore the negative impact of society upon women. And so say women are disadvantaged in a patriarchal society, therefore still remain in an expressive role. We don't need a return to traditional values, as women will be more oppressed than ever. So critical of the new right for calling for a return to traditional values. They say this won't reduce crime, this will just increase exploitation of women due to patriarchy. Heidenson argues that women have control, that's why they don't commit crime. She argues it's partly to do with poverty.
Was that the main writing?
Okay.
Is that the word in writing over there?
Yeah. Okay, interactionists would criticise the right realists. They'd say right realists overplay individual problems and choices that individuals make, rather than the labels put onto the individual. Okay, so this would be supported by Becker's labelling theory. So the interactionists would argue that the right realists ignore the problems caused by society, such as labelling, moral panics processes, because the right realists assume that certain groups really are the problem, such as young black males, and they ignore how these groups are unfairly stigmatised, stereotyped and labelled. Chambliss, as a Marxist, would support the idea that the right realists ignore capitalist society and focus on managing capitalism, and they ignore the problems with capitalism. Capitalist society is the cause of crime according to Marxists. They would argue that humans are good, not selfish and bad, and it's society that makes them bad rather than them choosing to be bad. So the Marxists would criticise the right realists for having an overly negative view of human nature and ignoring the problems with society. Lee and Young, left realists, would argue that right realists ignore relative deprivation and marginalisation, which are causes of problems like poverty in society and crime in society. Right realists overplay the responsibility of individuals. Left realists would say that they underplay problems with society. The left realists would say that the right realists have got this view of a kind of golden age of the family and society, which is outdated and unrealistic. And so the right realists aren't really realistic, they're idealistic. Because
They
there's
a golden was,
a golden age of the family and society, when everyone knew their place. The left realists would say that, in fact, capitalism is harmful and problematic. Masculinity and gender roles are problematic and harmful, so influenced by feminists. So he criticised the right realists for wanting a return to this golden age. It's not realistic, it's idealistic to expect this to happen. Okay, if you've got any questions, you can email Daniel_Butcher@hotmail.co.uk.